Good late afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Sage here. You're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney, and let's get on with the last show of the day, the last trade, wherein we'll discover all the latest market action from the local bourse and beyond. So mostly across the global markets today, equities extended their rout and bonds stabilised. Investors seem to be vigilant against the risk of the US Federal Reserve meeting this week to decide the fate of how to control inflation running at a 40-year high. Back home, the Australian economy had slipped from a state of strong recovery in the end of 2021 to being affected by the surge in COVID-19 infections. And how this settles is yet to be seen. This week, meanwhile, investors at home will be reflecting over the inflation data for the final 3 months of 2021, and we await the RBA board meeting as policymakers decide the fate of a bond buying program. Coming to the local bourse's performance today, and the ASX 200 closed lower, dropping 36.30 points or 0.51% and setting a new 100-day low. The index has lost 3.75% for the last 5 days, but has gained 4.99% over the last 52 weeks. Sectors ended mixed. 8 of 11 sectors were lower. A-REITs was the best performing sector, gaining 1.74% and rebounding from its recent decline. This sector is off 0.85% for the past 5 days. Let's now take a look at the top gainers and losers of the day. The best performer today was Unity Group, up 9%. It was followed by Goodman Group and Corporate Travel. Ingham's Group and Orica also made it to the gainers list today. In the red zone, however, of the ASX 200, we saw Regis Resources, which topped the laggards chart. Its stock down by over 14%. Other stocks in this zone were Life 360, Imugene, Liontown Resources and Novanix. Let's now look at a few stocks that interested investors today. Starting with an outperformer in terms of business performance, listed investment company Australian Foundation Investment Company's profit was up 73.5% to reach 146 million Australian dollars in the first half of 2021 to 2022, driven by a recovery in dividend income. Investment income for the 6 months rose to 159.4 million Australian dollars from 93.8 million Australian dollars in the corresponding period last year. The company, however, warned that the strong corporate earnings seen last year may be hit by supply chain disruptions. A global leader in the iron ore industry, Fortescue Metals Group, plans to spend 310 million Australian dollars buying a battery and engineering division with historic links to the famous Williams Formula One motorsport team. The deal is likely to help Fortescue build battery systems for trucks and trains. The company expects to settle a deal to acquire Williams Advanced Engineering by March. Homeware retailer Adairs stock plunged by over 20% today after the company warned that its first half profit would sink to almost half of the year's earlier period because of extended lockdowns in the Sydney and Melbourne areas and higher staff and warehousing costs in the pandemic. And even though consumers are spending more on the homewares, that wasn't enough to provide a buffer against having much more of the store network shut for months during the eastern seaboard lockdowns. And Regis Resources announced a change in its production guidance following a technical incident involving a wall slip at its Rosemont main pit. The gold production and exploration firm noted that other operational challenges have also restricted its ability to absorb the loss of high-grade feed. The full-year production guidance for the company's Duketon operations has been lowered to 300,000 to 340,000 ounces from 340 to 380,000 ounces. And now, before we move to the other trending updates, let's take a small break. Hi, I'm Sage, and get ready to take the crypto ride with me on Kalkine TV. Watch the Crypto Buzz every Tuesday and join the excitement at Kalkine TV. From Bitcoins to NFTs to Dogecoin and DeFi, we have updates about everything around these digital currencies. Understand the investing rationale and the risks involved in the space with me, Sage, on Crypto Buzz. Keep watching Kalkine TV. Hello, welcome back. Sage here. Let us now move on to the Asian and global markets. And the Asian shares mostly slipped today as investors braced for a Federal Reserve meeting in which the central bank is expected to sound hawkish on the March rate hike. Adding to the caution were concerns about a possible Russian attack on Ukraine, with the US State Department pulling out family members of its embassy staff in Kiev. And the MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan eased 0.7% and Japan's Nikkei 0.1%. Chinese blue chips added 0.4%, perhaps aided by the recent easing in policy by Beijing. And the Indian benchmark indices opened lower amid the weak global cues. Across the world, Wall Street's main indexes ended sharply lower on Friday, and Netflix shares plunged after a weak earnings report, capping a harsh week for stocks. So much so, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq logged their biggest weekly percentage drop since the onset of the pandemic. The S&P 500 fell 1.89% and Nasdaq's composite declined 2.72%, and the Dow Jones dropped 1.3%. And now we've reached the last segment of the show. Let's take a quick look over the buzzing crypto market performance. Bitcoin dropped again on Saturday and was last down around 4% for the day, hovering around the US $35,000 level. Bitcoin, the world's biggest and best known cryptocurrency, is now about half its $69,000 peak back in November of 2021. The currency has had wild price swings and has been hit as risk appetites fall on inflation fears and anticipation of a more aggressive pace of interest rate hikes from the US Federal Reserve. Ether, the coin linked to the Ethereum blockchain network, dropped 6.7%, down to US $2,396 on Saturday. The momentum for these cryptos remained almost the same today. In other news, the White House is readying an executive order for release as early as next month that will outline a comprehensive government strategy on the cryptocurrencies and ask the federal agencies to determine their risks and opportunities. And with that, that's a wrap, folks. Hope you found the market closing commentary informative, and we'll be back tomorrow live as close as possible to 9:30 from the Sydney studios with the first report on the pre-market scenario to prepare you for your day of trading. And that's all for now. Take care and stay safe. Sage signing off.